Hello, welcome to World Class Education. My name is Dr. Bradley, and today we're looking at the destruction of the economy. What makes most countries poor? Many countries, they're poor, and the people in the country is very poor. Why? So that's exactly what we're going to look at today. Now, I'm going to give you our answers to that. And sometimes you find that the answers I give you might sound like just that. But then if we focus on the answers that I'm going to give you, we discover that I'm accurate. And if we can change from that, you find that our economy can improve in the world, okay? Especially in Africa and other countries. Okay, so the destruction of the economy. We all know that when we have a president, a government, doesn't matter how the governance is done, but if we have these people, we have a country that is moving, functioning. We have families in that country that work. Do you understand? Now, there are families that do business. They have opened maybe a franchise somewhere, a man and his wife, and they're working together. Okay? Because each family, like I taught before one time, I don't know that video, the title. When I taught before, I focused a lot on the responsibility of a family. So you're working together with your wife or anything like that, and then you are expected to prosper. You and your children, everyone else, you are expected to prosper. But then what happens is the opposite. Even a family is struggling. So let's assume that we have a lot of people doing different things and they're struggling. Not because there is no money, because they are making terrible decisions. So let's point that out. The first terrible decision that I'm trying to talk about is when a man decides to divorce his wife. You see that? He's doing very fine, everything is just okay. Then somehow he meets another lady. And he believes this lady is better than his wife at home. Okay? He was doing fine before. You were working before, doing just fine. Planning to say in the next 2 months we're going to buy this. In the next 1 month we're going to buy that. So every time you were planning and hoping for a blessing in your home. And your children were growing up and you're happy. You get home as a parent, they're all welcoming your daddy's home and you're happy as a person. All of a sudden, you step out of your house because of selfishness and greed. See that? Then you find yourself a girlfriend. Now, the girlfriend, in the process, she gets pregnant. You impregnate that lady. That's another future with that person. A difficult one. This means that you have to keep the lie. For your family, for your wife. To your wife, you have to lie. After that, you'll be distracted as a man because your heart will be divided. So you don't know really what to do. You have a lady there trying to warn you, yeah, I'm pregnant for you, oh, this and that. And then maybe she really needs you. But what the fact is that your heart is divided. There is now a big problem there. A terrible, big problem. And your wife later on discovers. And then she reacts as well, childishly. Announces the word, people, friends, look what he has done. Oh, it's over, we're breaking up. And the kids suffer. And that business you were doing with that woman of yours suffers. Now, if we have a lot of people like that, the economy of the world cannot be stable. The economy itself cannot be stable because If people are stable, the economy will be stable. But if they're not stable, the families are not stable, there is no way the economy could be very stable. It's not possible. So these are distractions to our economy in our countries. People will blame the governments and they will go and vote for different governments to come in. Now, how many times are you going to cry for independence? How many times are you going to cry for a change of government? You find that there's a list of people planning to become president, about 5 or 7. Every time they've got something wrong that the other guy is not doing, that they are coming to do. Money is spent for those projects. Yet the problem is not the governance. It is the people in the country. And now, if the president who's running that nation, that country, doesn't communicate with the nation the vision that he has for the country, because you see, people need to know the vision. They must know the vision, that this is the vision of our country. I'll give an example of Singapore. A lot of you have seen Singapore on TV or on the internet, on YouTube, and you might confuse Singapore with the United Kingdom. In fact, you cannot compare Singapore with the United Kingdom because Singapore is amazing. That country is rich. But if we go back, we check how Singapore was years ago. Singapore was very poor. But how did Singapore manage to become very successful? Billionaires walked in. We also know that in 1990, Dubai was a desert. There was only one skyscraper in 1990. And many countries in Africa got independence during that time. Imagine Dubai was just a desert. But today, Dubai is not a country. Dubai is just a city. The most greatest city in the world is Dubai. Think about it. A desert becoming fertile land. Because Dubai, they discovered oil, but then the population of Arabs in Dubai, they don't depend on oil anymore. They have opened their borders for foreigners who are rich investors to come in. And now, 80% of people living in Dubai are foreigners. The Arabs themselves don't really consider making profits from the oil that they make. Maybe 5% is what they make. And today, a lot of people in Africa are divided. Their families divided. Their children divided. You see that? There's a lot of division. And there are countries that have a culture of selfishness. You find this country has a certain culture that themselves, they're just selfish. You can go to Mauritius. You find everybody's welcoming you. Oh, I've traveled so many countries. You go to other countries I may not talk about. You find that the way they respond to you is different. It's like they're mocking you. They don't trust you. Countries like Nigeria. You go to Nigeria, it's like you're a suspect. You see that? So all those things must be taken into consideration. For us to be very, very successful as a president of a nation, you must prepare your vision and tell your countrymen. These people that come from terrible background, that are suffering, that are found in the markets, the marketeers, they're the ones that vote, elect a president. If you show them the vision, let me tell you something. Did you know that in Singapore, to chew a gum and to spit it on the ground, you can go to prison. You could go to prison. And when you're found smoking or maybe drugs, they hang you, they kill you. There are no gums in Singapore. And if you come with a gum, you were told from the airport. The rules are like this. I heard that the president of Singapore said that if you want a gum, get a banana and chew it. Then getting a gum and then making the streets terrible. Have you seen that? meaning that those people were taught about the vision, how they wanted to make Singapore look like. And every house participated in designing the country, designing the beauty of a nation. As a president, you cannot do it on your own. You will need the people that elected you to make your country a better country. You're not going to need your team. I'm talking about your ministers, your cabinets. Those are not the ones that you're going to need. Of course, we need them to go into the ground and hear what people want, okay, and satisfy the people. But as a president, remember that you have an obligation to tell the people the vision that you want them to follow. They must have one vision, and they must believe in that vision. And every time they go to school, they know our country will be like this. Our country will be like that. Look at Congo. How a lot of they've damaged, they've destroyed so many things. And today, I speak to you today, right now, there is confusion in Congo. Most people from Congo have left the country. You find them in Kenya. You find them in Mauritius, because in Mauritius they speak French. You find them in Mauritius. You find them in Zambia, the Congolese. Their country is hard to leave. They picked a new president who's gone around Africa trying to build a relationship with different countries to stabilize the economy of Congo. It was yesterday when I heard on the news that there's riots, confusion again in Congo. Congo fighting with the UN. It doesn't have to start out with a fight as a nation. We must have a right mentality to protest. You know, people say we must protest, and when they go out to protest, that protest would turn around to be something else. And then people, the Al Jazeera, other TV stations, reporters will go there and report and tell the world there's confusion in this country. Now, look at that. An investor like me, let's say I want to invest money because I'm seeing Congo that is stabilizing, and I want to put in $2 billion. How can I be confident to put money in a country which is not stable? How can I do that? So by protesting like that, making noise like that, the world has a different picture about you. The investors will pull out, and your country will remain poor. You see that? Guinea, right now as I speak, there's confusion as well in Guinea. Now, it's very wrong that most of African countries have that mentality. Okay? Very terrible. And the lack of vision, let me tell you, the lack of vision will result into confusion. If you haven't given me sets of instructions with which I should function or follow, it is very difficult for me to agree with you or walk or work with you. I will not walk with you, I will not work with you, because I don't know where I stand. And listen, as a president, you cannot just believe that people will follow your lead. That's not going to happen. Just because you send a minister, go and tell them this. They're not children. If they don't believe in your vision, it's maybe because you haven't told them. If you come on stage and just say, we're going to build roads, we're going to build what? It's not the roads people need. Show them an example. I remember President Trump, one time, they had a challenge in the US, and then he came on TV and said, we have learned something from Australia. We're going to take that structure and use it in the United States. Without shame, he said that. Because it's also important to learn from others how they have developed their economy. So many presidents are bought by other nations. They're paid, they're given money to talk about things, to introduce COVID issues. They're given money for that. It is wrong to do so. Okay? So, the challenges that we face in our homes, challenges we face with our families, our children, these are investments of our personalities. Permanent investments. The time, the resources that we spend on our families, so important. We are expected, like I said, you are expected as a couple to prosper, to make wealth, to be productive. You are expected to be that kind of a person. So you must make up your mind, making sure that that nation where you live, that country where you come from, you contribute to the prosperity of your country. I tell people to say governments, let me tell you, a government that goes to borrow money cannot guarantee my help. You see, we have African countries that have borrowed a lot of money to the point that they will never pay back. I can mention the names of these governments that have borrowed from different countries, not one country. There is no hope that there will be a time when they will pay back the money. No hope. Okay? And then you use borrowed money and come and say that I'm coming in the government, I'll come and change things, and I want to give the youths money, empowerment. How are you going to use borrowed money to empower people? Because it's not your money. Every time you hear that your neighbor went to borrow money from the bank, what does that tell you? It tells you that your neighbor is broke. Now, if your country went to borrow money somewhere else, and they come and tell you that we're going to give you youth empowerment, how are you going to give that? Every government that is lying to people will not last long in power, because people will discover that you're only giving words. You see that? You're only giving words. And people are never smart. Every time they have power, they feel it's not going anywhere. They feel this power they have is permanent. Communicate the vision to your country. Communicate the vision. Even as a father of the house, communicate the vision to your wife and children. What you hope to do in the family. Your extended family. The family of your father. The family of your mother. How come there are so many disorganized families? They only meet when there's a funeral or a wedding. After that, they don't know each other. How can you live like that? When there's disorganization like that, it's very difficult for the economy of the country to prosper. Mother Teresa said, a family that eats together, a family that prays together, a family that does everything together, that they stay together. That's an organized family. Successful and organized family. What kind of family do you want to have? What kind of family do you want to build? You said you want to change your family. You see, I was answering in the previous video about our lesson about a lady from Mauritius that asked me about purpose. So the points I gave her, what purpose was, what purpose is that there must be passion to something and a reason to what you want to do and why you want to do what you want to do. There must be a reason. And one of the reasons is the freedom. Those that fought the independence for many countries. Mexico was colonized by Spain. They fought for their independence. That purpose for freedom, the need for freedom, that need is a purpose for life. And when someone takes that need upon himself and says, I must do it, we must be free, they become free. The same with some countries all over the world with problems. You can decide to be free. You can choose to be free. You can say, I want to be free. You understand? You can say, I must be a free nation, a free person in my country. And you will participate in the growth of your economy. You tell your children, the president said, we're going to do this. Our country will be like this. Have you seen that? I remember in my country, before I was born, I read history, that when we got the independence, okay, in Zambia, we never had a university. So we've got what we call our University of Zambia. How that university was built, that people from their villages, their farms, okay, from their crops, whatever they had, they were donating to the government, giving the government to sell so that they can build that university. Now, all that has stopped. Because governments are telling people, we're coming to help you. We're coming to give you money. And people believe it, knowing that the government of Zambia went to borrow the money. You see that? They announced on TV that we borrowed so much, and you heard that they borrowed money. And after you heard them tell you that we have borrowed, they've come back and to tell you again to say, oh, look, we'll finance the youths, we'll fund the youths, we'll give money to the youth. Why would you give money that you have borrowed to give the youths? For what? Who will be accountable to follow up for that money that you have given the youths? The PF government, they did it. They got money. They gave some people that failed to pay back. So don't use those kind of words, we're going to sponsor you. We know that the money you borrowed, and since you have announced that you borrowed the money, use it in a way that you can find that money to pay back. Don't tell anybody that you're going to fund them. It is not right to do so. There's nothing for free. Governments have never helped people. It is people that help governments. I taught that message before. I said that if we check in the 90s, or we check in centuries, 2,000 years ago, stories about kingdoms and kings, we discovered that it was the people that gave food to the kings. They were paying taxes to give food to the kings. Until today, it's the same way that the people pay taxes to make sure the president should look good, the government should have money. See that? So let's just have that in mind, that we can help governments, and governments must tell us. Governments must be honest and tell us to say, look, here is the vision. I'm not talking about a vision without a motto. We should have one statement to say we are going like this, in this direction. One statement. And when you mention the statement of the country, of that vision, we all have an awareness to say, this is my country they're talking about. And when everyone has that idea, it will work. It will work. If they are convinced, they're encouraged, they are pushed, everyone is made to believe there will be success in the country. It's very important to understand that entrepreneurs today are the backbone of the world and nations. Entrepreneurs are the backbone. So if we can encourage people to open businesses, to stay with their family. I'm very grateful that I saw my president. He was talking about a relationship on TV. He was talking about how to stay with your girlfriend or fiancé, how to make sure that you stay together with your wife, how to be a good husband. I was inspired by that because that's exactly what we need. We must locate the source of the problems in our nations. When we do that, we encourage people to live well. And the only thing that can distract people, you see, wickedness is birthed out of poverty. The most wicked person is a poor person. When a man is poor, he's very wicked. You see, they're the ones that kill people for the money. They are the ones that have a mindset of poverty. They want to take shortcuts. They believe that this guy's got money, so we just be with him and take the money from him, or that kind of stuff, because they have this kind of a lack of money, and they believe others have. You understand? So a poor person is a wicked person. So it's very bad to have wicked people in a country. You will never find a rich man burning a tire in the streets and say, you're not passing here until we vote. No, because a rich man understands the quality, the price of a tire. But poor people will come and do that. And if poor people are not given strategies or are not given information in how they can start businesses, how they can start businesses, they would choose to be changing governments, so that the governments can now give them more money in their pockets without them working. But we all know that story never happens. People say, oh, the government's coming to give us more money in our pockets. That story is not true. There's a lot of fraud right now in many nations. because of false promises to people. So that's a distraction on our economies. We need to improve, look away from that distraction as a country and as a citizen. Okay? Anyone who has promised you that they're going to give you money, don't believe them. Whatever nation you're coming from, anyone that tells you that they're going to give you money, they're going to sponsor you, and make sure that you become rich through the funds that the government will give you, don't believe them. Because if they had the money in the first place, they would not borrow. It is no secret around the world that our African governments have borrowed. So when they come with a story telling you, oh, we're going to make you rich, oh, we're going to give you funding, don't believe them. Go to your work as you should. Think of a country of 40 million people. A government come in there and say that they'll give them money. How's that possible? That's why you have corruption. How are you going to give that money? How are you going to identify talent? How fair is it that you give someone, you also don't give the other group? How fair is that? That's how you find that you only get the money and give only those people that you know and yourselves. You see that? Corruption. Don't promise people money. Tell them to go and start businesses. Tell them to work hard. Tell them to work with their families. And again, if you're choosing, you want to marry as a man, okay, why should you marry a person who is not going to help you? Why should you, as a woman, marry a man who's not educated? What should you? You shouldn't do that. Choose your group. You can marry a person who's not educated as long as that person is hardworking. You can. Because there's something you will get from there. The kind of life you're going to live with that man. You're going to improve the economy in the world with this kind of a person. Have you seen? And I'm not talking about a man who goes to Nigeria. He comes to or another country, goes to South Africa. Okay, Nigerians do that a lot. And then there, he marries. Okay, he leaves South Africa. He goes to Tanzania. There he marries. All right, there are people who do that. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about is the person who's doing business and has a family, and when he leaves the country, his family trusts him and know that he's coming back for us. He's coming back to us. He went to work. Have you seen that? He went to work. So that's very, very important that we should do that. We should teach our children. You know, in Africa, we don't teach our own very children how to make expenses. We don't do that. We don't. But if we can start training our own children, you know, if you're planning to change the country, to be specific, it will start with the young generation. You teach them. You tell them the value of money, how to use the money, because money has value. And every child must know that. You see, there are people that just spend money anyhow, they just spend it, and then until they're broke. You ask a person, most of the guys and young ladies in Africa, how much savings do you have in your bank account just at your bank? How much do you have? Believe it or not, you find they have nothing. How can a woman or a man have nothing in their bank? They've been working for 3 years, 4 years, yet their account, they've got nothing. How is it possible? The lack of a better training. Because when you're growing up, they never taught you how to save money. When you're growing up, they never showed you the value of money. There are things that you would do with money if you know how to save it. You find they're selling something very cheap, and then only you has money. I was in Zambia. I traveled to Zambia. When I got there was a lady, a couple. The man was a pilot. He was selling a very beautiful structure. When I asked him about the price, it was very cheap. Quickly, I told my dad, I was with my dad, I said, let's drive there right now. You see, because I had the money. Now, imagine if all the money was used and finished, because money must be used. Somebody will be stranded, they want something, and they want money from you. Understand? Be in that place of advantage. Find yourself in that place of advantage. It's a beautiful life. It's a very beautiful life. Imagine always that you have. Okay, always to have. Isn't that beautiful? Always to be in a place where you have. You want to go somewhere, you just buy a ticket, get in a plane, and go. Isn't that wonderful? You apply for a visa to come to the US. They first check your bank statement. They tell you the minimum balance must be this. Just by that statement, you know I'm not going anywhere. You understand? It's not good to be that way. So like I said, I've talked about so many things today. Okay, let's focus on those challenges, distractions to our economy in Africa, especially in Africa, all over the world, but especially in Africa. Don't be distracted. As far as we deal with these problems I just mentioned right now, we deal with these problems, I believe that we'll be okay. Because we are all great men and women all over the world. We are men with hope. And the teachings of different religions has helped the world. It be the Muslims, it be the Christians, the Hindus, all these have helped to keep the country, the world together and to restrain a lot of evil. So go back to those things. Go back to those associations. Muslims, Christians, Hindus, whatever it is that has helped to keep the world together for decades. You understand? Thank you so much. Until then, keep living. I'll see you next time. Remember, every Sunday, we have what we call world-class business topics. Every Sunday. So keep following me as I teach every Sunday. We've got a service that I teach online every Sunday. See you. Bye-bye.